Hello everybody, this is a July 2020 Superheavy Samurai deck profile. Before I begin, I would like to say that my next video will be very cool. It's going to be Danger Lightsworn. It's really cool. The build is awesome. I'm very excited for Danger Lightsworns. Anyway, the thing about Superheavy Samurai is that without the OCG Link monster, the deck really hasn't changed much over the past years, so this is going to look very similar to what a Superheavy profile would have looked like from the past. Still, it's a cool and a decent deck that can often output 2 synchros in one turn with 1 or even 2 cards possibly left in your hand for potential hand trap, interruption, or kaiju plays. This deck is usually better off going second because attacking is really the major goal of this deck, just trying to put as many defense position beaters on the field as possible. So 3 Wagon. This card is the best normal in the deck and will land you a search of one of many of the better cards of this deck, like Soul Peacemaker or Soul Piercer, and then you can use one of those 2 cards to grab Trumpeter from the deck, which is just the most critical card. So you're just always trying to get Trumpeter pretty much. 3 Soul Peacemaker. This card equips to a monster, then you tribute the monster special from the deck. This card just helps you get exactly the level that you need for the synchro summon that you're trying to pull off. 3 Soul Piercer. This one adds from deck to hand when it's sent to the graveyard, which will be happening when you use the equipped monster as synchro material. And most of the time, again, you'll be adding Trumpeter. It's really the ace card in the main deck. Trumpeter, it just enables all of your synchro summons. This card also gives Piercing too, which may not matter too much in the TCG, but in a slower duel where defense mode is very common, such as in Duel Links. Just as a side note, this card is actually quite good. 3 Big Waraji. This card, it's a definite 3 of in this pure version of Superheavy. You just need as many materials and extenders on the field as possible to make ideally more than 1 synchro in 1 turn. This card just has a nice high level, so it helps you go into bigger synchros with fewer materials. 3 Trumpeter. This card, it's just by far the most important and versatile card in the main deck. All it really does is special summon itself, but it's a free body, which is also a tuner. So it's just always the card that you want to be searching, even if you opened it too, because you can most of the time use another one to make yet another synchro play. Without Trumpeter, it's just much harder for this deck to make synchro plays at all. 3 Scales. If your opponent controls 2 or more monsters and you control none, special summon this card and then revive a level 4 lower Superheavy from the graveyard. This is a big reason, in addition to having the first battle phase as well, that you want to go second, because hopefully you can bring this card out without using your normal, revive some monsters that you just used as synchro material, just cheese out more monsters onto the field. 2 Fist. This card is kind of the backup behind Trumpeter. It allows you to synchro summon during your battle phase, which can sometimes lead to more damage than what your opponent was expecting. It also special summons itself from the graveyard. It can be hard to put it in the graveyard in the first place, but if the duel lasts long enough, this card can be useful to bring out more synchros. 2 Flutist. This card negates and destroys targeting from the graveyard, which is one of the few forms of protection that this deck has. Flutist, it can be put into the graveyard easily after you tribute it. This card, it does do a great job of protecting your monsters, but it can be kind of slow. You don't always want to see it. You sometimes want cards that will add to your combos more, so 2 Flutist. 2 Gauntlet. This is a hand trap that doubles your Superheavy's original defense. I thought I would double up on this card because battle is a huge emphasis in this deck. Even though it doesn't always succeed reliably, battle, this is how you would theoretically do massive damage in 1 turn with some of these massive defense synchros. 1 Magnet. Upon normal, special a level 4 lower from the hand. You don't always have it in the hand, so just to keep these ratios consistent, 1 of this card. 1 Thief, which is a free special summon, then you tribute it to pop one of your opponent's back row and set it to your field. A little bit of useful removal built into the core of the deck. 1 Big Banky, which turns all of your monsters into defense position attackers. Can sometimes be useful to attack with Big Waraji or Scales, which have reasonably high defense. 1 Drum. This card has a floating effect to revive from the graveyard, but most of the time this is just most useful to be a level 1 tuner. One battle ball. This card allows you basically to use your opponent's monster as synchro material, but it sounds better than what it really is, because now with link monsters being so popular, a lot of the times your opponent won't have a monster with a level. But back in the day, this was really the go-to way of getting rid of your opponent's monsters in a way that didn't target or destroy, and meanwhile making your own field stronger. One Soul Horns. This card allows you to attack twice. This card can be great at the right time, but a lot of times you want to see extenders or cards that will contribute to your board a little more. So just one Soulfire Suit. Just discard this card as a quick effect to protect your monster from battle or card effects. This deck, it's pretty one-dimensional, honestly, so this card is a welcome form of protection. 2 Gamma Seal. This could definitely be Nibiru if you choose, but I was trying to make this deck completely as synergistic with itself as possible, so I was just considering all the options. Scales wants your opponent to have 2 or more monsters, so this card, Gamma Seal, in comparison or in contrast with Nibiru, doesn't actually lower the amount of monsters your opponent has, but you can still get rid of their strongest monsters, so just a very subtle distinction there that may come into play. 2 Ash, 2 Veiler, 2 Swift Scarecrow. Like I said in the beginning, this deck can often make 2 synchros while still having 1 or 2 cards in your hand that you didn't even use. So Superheavy Samurai just needs a little bit more interruption to make it a little more competitive, just keep you in the game. And 1 Sekka's Light, which is the Pot of Greed in monster-only decks. This is the only draw power in the deck pretty much, so it is definitely a shame that this card got limited. So for the extra deck, 2 Ogre Shuten Doji. With all the level 4 non-tuners and level 2 tuners in the main deck, I thought it would be a good call to run 2 of this card. Plus it has a great summon effect to pop all your opponent's back row. 1 Stealth Ninja. This card is a good way to cheese damage with a direct attack that you normally wouldn't be able to inflict. It also floats and brings back itself. 2 Ninja Sarutobi. A lot of the times I find myself synchro climbing into this card, so I thought I would add a second one. It pops an opponent's spell or trap, then inflicts 500 burn damage. 1 Beast Kyubi. This one gains defense for each special summon monster your opponent controls. As you can see with a lot of these extra deck monsters, actually, they have been outclassed by newer cards and even newer synchros. They don't do that much. I still wanted to include a synchro option for each level, so this is just your level 9 option. So 3 Warlord Susanoo. Playing this deck, I find myself having 2 4s and a 2, and alternatively a 4, a 5, and a 1. So this is just the go-to combination of levels here, and it does have a very good effect. It does high defense, which is great for attacking, but it also has a neat effect of stealing your opponent's spell or trap as a quick effect from the graveyard. So before they can recur it, you can sneakily put it on your side of the field and use it when it comes back to your turn. And 1 Steam Train King. So this card is more notably a Waking the Dragon target, but in this deck it's a very hard to pull off boss monster. You can discard up to 2 cards and pop up to 2 cards, which is basically a worse version of Bryanak, but the more useful effect on this card is to banish all spells and traps from the grave and inflict burn damage. So depending on what deck you're playing against, banishing spells and traps from the grave could potentially hurt your opponent if you mess up their graveyard before they can recur their cards. 1 Nat Beast and Barkion. This is an all-earth deck, so these cards can be summoned, but keep in mind the restrictions that cards like Big Waraji and Trumpeter have that stop you from summoning non-super heavy monsters. 1 Daigusto Emerald. So this is a rank 4 that is easily made in this deck with a lot of level 4s. Easy to pull off effect with only monsters being in the graveyard. It's a solid choice for draw power. In 2 links, 1 Crystron Halqifibrax. If you're building this deck, you really don't need this card. A lot of the main deck locks you into Superheavy Samurais for the turn, and Halqifibrax can sometimes be completely useless in your extra deck instead of something like another Synchro. What it's really in here for is potentially you cannot have the right combination of levels on the field, then swap 2 of your materials for a tuner that you get from the deck through this card that will ideally work with the other monster, the last monster you had on the field, to make the synchro you want. It can sometimes come into play, doesn't always happen though. And finally, 1 Borload. If you have a full hand at the start, you can probably make 2 synchros or 1 Borload, and one of those options is how you're attempting to win the game. So that's pretty much it for the July 2020 Super Heavy Samurai deck profile. Thank you for watching. See you later.